Hello, welcome to this new episode of Code Researcher. On Code Researcher, you know what we do, right? We code, we learn, and we build together. All right, so on this new episode of Code Researcher, we will be discussing two very important widgets in Flutter, which is one, the BottomNavBar, and two, the PageView widget. We will put these two widgets together and use them to develop a very nice home page that contains tabs, different tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs, and how we will put them together to make the app look clean, beautiful, and neat, and also discuss how you can do it in your own mobile app. So stick around, stick with me, and let's do this. All right. So on the screen, you can see we've started our new app, which is running all right. So the first thing we always do is let me create a new directory that I'll call home. Let's create a new directory called home. So this will be the home directory, and then this home directory will have a class which will also be home, right? So let's create a stateful widget out here and then call it home. All right, so we'll call this stateful widget home, and then we will create a scaffold like this. All right, so this is the first step into the app where we define the home page or the home screen, right? So let's go into our main app and then reference this home as the primary page or the first page to appear when the app launches. So we have this. Now let's rerun our app and confirm if the home is now reflecting, and then we can get to work. Alright, we are running in the wrong environment, so let's stop the Chrome. Okay, yeah, so let's rerun our app. Okay, all right, sorry, I was running the app in the wrong environment. Yeah, it happens. So we have our scaffold, our app is now launching. So what we will do is, apart from creating the home, we will also need 4 screens that will be inside of the home, right? So let's have screens that will be in the home, and then in those screens we are going to have the home page. So this is going to be the home page screen. We are going to have the home page screen, and let me change this to a directory, right? Let me remove it from a directory to a direct tab file, right? So we are going to have home page, and then in that home page which is, let's just make it stateful and then call it the home page screen, right? Which returns a scaffold, and then we are going to have a message. So let's call this message, which will also be a stateful widget that we'll call a message, and it will return a scaffold, right? Then we are gonna have, I said 4 screens, right? We are gonna have 4 screens. So after message, we'll have his settings. Let's have settings. We are just putting screens together to learn how to create our custom home tab or our custom bottom navigation, and also connect it with a page view, right? So that's what we are doing. So let's call this settings, and then we also return a scaffold, and then our last screen, I want us to just call that one profile. Yeah, so let's create a stateful widget and call it profile. All right, so we are going to have scaffold. All right, so this is what we have now. We have our home screen, which is going to be the main screen holding the widgets, and then we have our home page screen, our message screen, our profile, and then our settings, right? So yeah, as you can see in our app, our home page is now reflecting. So let's start by building the home page, right? So we have scaffold, and scaffold comes with a BottomNavBar widget, right? It comes with that particular property, so we only have to assign our BottomNavBar and then design it anyhow we want it, right? So this is what we are going to do. We will leave the app bar, we will leave the body, and we will only design the BottomNavBar for the scaffold, right? So this is going to be our home page, which will have a BottomNavigationBar, which is going to be like this, which is going to be like this. It is going to be like this. Yeah, which is going to be like this, and it's going to take children, right? It's going to take children, which are going to be the bottom nav items, right? So we are going to have children of an items, right, of this, which will be bottom, which will be a BottomNavBar item. So every BottomNavBar item takes an icon, so we are going to design that. So we have to give an icon to our BottomNavBar items, right? So this one, we are going to have the icon for home. Let me use a very beautiful home icon. So we are going to have an icon for home. Let's take let's use Cupertino. I think we should use Cupertino icon, right? All right, so let's use the Cupertino icon, which is going to be this home. Let's import that. Let's import this, which is going to be icons. Yeah, so BottomNavBar takes at least 2 children, so we also create our next BottomNavBar item, which is going to be the message. So let's look for a message. Let's say text. Let's see. Yeah, so we are going to have text bubble. Let's use this, and then we're going to have another one that takes settings. So we are going to have settings. All right, and then we are going to have the last one, which is profile. Yeah, so we are going to have these 4 items right now. So let's select our device and run the app again. So what we are doing, as I've said already, we are creating the BottomNavBar together with the page view, right? So the BottomNavBar help us have a tab or a list of tabs that we can select our various screens from, right? So we're going to have a tab of home, we are going to have a tab of message, settings, profile, and then when you click on the profile icon, you see the profile screen. When you click on the message icon, you see the message screen, and that applies to everything, right? So that's what we are doing. All right, so we've run our app, let's check the bottom down there and see if we have our items. Okay, so let's run again. Oh, we are doing this inside of the settings screen. Yeah, so this is supposed to be in the home screen. Sorry, so we are supposed to have this in the home screen like this. Yeah, so we are supposed to have this inside of the home screen, not the settings screen. All right, so we have a problem which says field insertion, like every bottom item must have a label, right? So that is one issue you face when you are creating a BottomNavBar item, right? So the BottomNavBar is saying, or Flutter is saying, that every BottomNavBar or item must have a label. So we have to label our items right now. We have to label our icons, which is going to be the home, the message, the settings, and the profile. So let's do that. We are going to give this a label that we call the home. Sorry. And then we are going to do similar thing for the rest of them, right? So we are going to have this as the message. We are going to have this as messages, and then we are going to have this as settings. We are going to have this as settings, and then we are going to have this as profile, right? So we are going to have this as profile. All right, so let's rerun our app and check if the message or the error will be solved. So we rerun our app, and yeah, now the error is gone and you can see the icons showing down there. All right, so now we have to give a create screens right now. We have to give our icon a color, we have to give our active icon a color, inactive icon a color, and all that. All right, so let's first come down here and then let's check them. So we have to set our selected item color and then the unselected item color, right? So we'll do the selected item color, and then that should be black. All right, so let's rerun and see. So our home is black, and then let's set the unselected item color, let's set them to gray. All right, so the rest are now gray, and then we are also hiding the text, right? All right, so the next thing we do is we are going to set our current index. All right, we'll send the current index so that we can move in between the different tabs. Right now it's just stuck on the home tab, so even when we clean between tabs, nothing happens, right? So when you are dealing with these items, you have to set your current index with because BottomNavBar takes an integer of current index, and that is what it's used to detect the active index, right? So let's create an integer of current index. Let's create this and make it 0, which will be the first item inside of the BottomNavBar. So we can do current index. Sorry, we can do current index to be current index. All right, so we can do this. Okay, so now we have this. Now the next thing we have to do is to set on click, right? So when an item is clicked, what do we do? When an item is selected, how do we know that this is the current index of the item? All right, so let's also check that from here. So we have this function. Where is this function? We have this onTap function. All right, and it takes an integer parameter, and that's what we are going to use, or it takes an integer argument, and that's what we are going to use to select the current index and pass that to our current index. All right, so we'll do onTap, which will take the index or the page that have been tabbed on, and then with that we will now set state and set our current index to becoming the tabbed index. All right, so now when we select or tap on an item, that particular item should become the active one. All right, so let's check. As you can see, our items are now the active one. Very nice looking dashboard. All right, sorry, a very nice looking BottomNavBar. All right, so that is that. And now we have our BottomNavBar or our BottomNavBar items done. The next thing is to create the screens, right? The next thing is to create the current screen. So we already have our screens defined, which is the home page, the message, the settings, and then the profile, right? So what I want us to do is to actually give them a background. All right, let's give them a background color. Let's give them a background color, which is going to be red for home page. Okay, let's also give them a body, which will be centered, and then in that center let's give them a child, which will be a text, and then let's call that home page. All right, let's call that home page. Because this is red and then the text is going to be black, it won't show clearly, so let's apply a styling to it. So let's call style text style, and then let's set color to white. All right, so let's copy this similar thing and apply it to the rest of the screens. So we take message, this becomes yellow, and this becomes messages. Then we take settings, then settings become green, and then we call it settings. And then we take profile becomes blue, then we call it profile. Yeah, so after we have all this, we would have to create a list of these widgets. All right, so we would have to create a list of these widgets and call it screens, or let's call it tab or nav screens. So nav screens, and this nav screens will become a list of our widgets, right? So we're gonna have home page as the first widget, and we are gonna have message, we're gonna have message as the second widget, and then we are gonna have settings as the third widget, and we are gonna have profile as the final widget. All right, so this particular widget, the scaffold, we are going to call the scaffold body, and this scaffold body is going to contain list of this widget, right? So that's going to be nav screens, and then we want to use a single screen for the body, right? So what we do is we pass the current index. So when we do this, each screen here is going to be referenced alone using the current index, right? So if this current index is 0, then it's going to pick the home page, which is this, and then if it is 1, it's going to pick the messages, which will be this, and then it's going to pick settings, which will be this, and it's going to be profile, which will be this, right? So let's check that out. Let's rerun our app and see what we got. So as you can see, now we have our home page screen, which is the red. We have our message, which is the yellow. We have our settings, which is the green. And then we have our profile, which is the blue. Now, that is all. If you are dealing with BottomNavBar or BottomNavigation, that is everything completely. But we want to make it rich, right? We want to make the work of the user easy. We want to make the user be able to just swipe between screens, right? So you can just swipe from the home page to the next screen and swipe from the next screen back to the home page. All right, so that is what we are going to do, and that is where we are going to use the page view. All right, so let's go into working together with the page view. Okay, so now this is what we will do. In this body, we are going to take all this off, and then we are going to replace it with page view. All right, so if we take page view has a very important part or important property, which is the controller. We have to set the controller because that is what we can use to navigate between the screens, but we won't go into that yet. For now, let's just implement the most important part, which is the screens, and then how we swipe between them. All right, so if we take page view, we will be focusing on this particular property, which is the children property that takes a list of widgets. All right, so we are going to have children, and that children will be the nav screens. Right, so that's all. This is going to be the 4 screens. Now if we run our app, we should be able to have our page view, and when we have our page view, we should be able to swipe between the pages. All right, so let's try that. So we have this, you see, we can swipe, then we have our message, we have our settings, and then we have our profile. That is all for the page view. It's not complicated, it's very straight to the point and easy. All right, so now as you can see, the bottom nav item seems to be working no more, and also when we swipe, it doesn't reflect on the bottom nav items. So what do? We get to work. All right, so first what we need in order to make that work is to create a page controller, because that is what we will use to work or to control the page view. So we're gonna have this page controller, and then when we come to the page view, we'll set the controller to be this controller. All right, so now when we come here, what we are going to do is we'll take the controller. When we come here, after setting our page controller, we have another function that we can use to change the current index. So we're gonna have this, which is this. So we've removed our current index. Let's set our current index to be this index. And then when we come to page controller, so we have a function called onPageChanged, which takes index. So on page change, we'll take that current index of the page, and then we'll set state, and then we'll say current index should be equal to that particular page index. All right, so this is what we want to do. This is what we are going to do, right? But again, let's run and see. So we've done this. If we press this, it's not working because we haven't called the page changed, or we haven't worked around the page controller. But I think if we change page like this, it should reflect, right? So now if we change the pages, if we turn the pages, the index is working. But if we tap, the current index doesn't work. All right, so let's work around the current index so that when we tap, it will work, and when we swipe, it will work as well. So let's go in there, and then we would have to go to the bottom nav bar. All right, so we'd have to go to the bottom nav bar, and then we will say that when the page is changed, right? So we can call page controller dot. When we change the page, we want it to automatically jump to that particular page, right? So that should be the current index. So now we are saying that when we click on index 3, page controller, all right, should automatically jump the page to that current index, all right, to that particular index. So let's run that and see what we got. All right, so we've rerun the app, and let's see what we got. So we click on profile and it's working. We click on message and it's working. We go to home. Now our swipe is working correctly, and then our tap is also working. As you can see, that is the beauty of two simple widgets. We use the bottom nav bar with this here, and also use the page view with this here. And that's how we got our beautiful screens with custom navigations, our beautiful screen with beautiful of our project. This will be the end of our experiment. This will be the end of our lesson. If you like this video, if this video have taught you something new, I want you to like, share, comment, and if you are watching for the first time, don't forget, subscribe, because that is how we grow the channel. That is how we make this video reach all other people. All right, so don't keep it to yourself. Help a friend to help a friend. See you on the next episode of Code with Secho. Bye bye.